Return to Serenity by Testament. As always, I'll put the links for the tab, the Songsterr, whatever, down in the description so you've got access to the music. This particular riff is I'd say the main clean riff. It plays on the intro and throughout most of the verse sections, some of the guitar solos as well. In the song transcription, if you're looking at Songsterr or whatever, it starts at bar 25 and it's 2 bars long. So that's the piece of music that we want to be looking at. Now, again, like some of the other riffs I've done, this one's played in E flat. I'll put a link to the explanation for that as well. But if you're only practicing to yourself, it doesn't matter, you can use standard tuning. It will only make a difference if you're playing along to the original Testament or to the Songsterr, if you're trying to make it in tune with what's been played. But aside from that, don't worry too much about that. Now, it's quite, there's 3 parts. I'm going to break this down into 4 parts. 3 of the parts are really simple, and 1 of the parts might be a challenge or might not be. And that's mainly going to depend on probably your stretching ability and a chord that you might not be familiar with. But we'll deal with that when we get to it. The first thing to mention is the timing. In this series, these clean thrash riffs, all the ones I've done so far have been in 4 times, so we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4 with our riffs, so like the Sanitarium. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. This one we're doing in a 3 count, so it's going to be triplets. So it's I don't know if you picked it out whilst I was playing through. It's mostly 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So just be aware of the timing difference. If you try and play it in a 4 count, it's not going to sound right. So from the beginning, so I'm going to split it into 4 little parts across these 2 bars. So the first half of bar 25, we're looking at, it's quite simple. It's a chord we used before. I did it on the Sanitarium one. It's actually look at it as a B5 chord with an open E string as well. So my little B5 chord, 2nd fret on my A string, 4th fret on my D string, and then I've got my open E string to begin the piece with. So all 3 notes together. I'm going to repeat that through twice with that 3 count triplet feel. 25% done. The next section is even easier. If you imagine your basic G chord, your open root G chord, that's what we're going to play. In this instance, we don't have to bother about putting our little finger or our little fingers down on the high strings. We're only worried about the first 2 notes of the G chord, so the 3rd fret on your E string, 2nd fret on your B string, and then an open D, which is the same as your standard G chord. And again, we're going to use that 1, 2, 3 triplet feel to play through it. So we're going from that B5, if you will, chord with a open E root note, play that through twice, and then twice on the that G shape, or the bottom end of the G shape. Super simple fingering for that. It seems to float into 1 chord into the next because your positions going from 2 to 3, fingers 1 to 2, they go together quite easily and quite well. Now, 50% done. The challenge you might find is in this section, in the 3rd section, the first half of bar 2 or bar 26 as it is on the music. We've got a chord where we're playing, to start off with, we're playing the 5th fret on our A string, the 4th fret on our D string, and then the 2nd fret on our G string. Now, I'm playing that in the order of those notes. The first one I'm playing with my little pinky finger, the second one I'm playing with my ring finger, and the last one I'm playing with my first finger. Those 3 notes. You may or may not find that as a stretch, depending on what level you're at or the type of chords that you're playing. And it is a bit of an unusual chord that you might not have played before. So there's 2 little things there that might trip you up and need a little bit of practice and warm up before you're able to get it right. So in this 3rd section, the first half of the bar 25, I'm playing the first 3 notes are just exactly what I just described. And the second 3 notes, it's a little bit easier, so I'm going to take my first finger off. So I'm going from the A on my G string down to an open G string. So I'm going finger on, finger off. So on the second lap round, it's a little bit easier, which is great because it sets us up nicely for the last part of the fourth part of the section. Now, before I move on to that, I just want to tell you, you might have noticed when I was playing the full riff through, when I'm coming to this third section, the bit that I said you might find tricky, if you noticed, I was playing, so I played through the first section, went to the second section. Now, if I was just going to play on that all day, I'd probably keep my hand in that type of position if you can see it, but I know that I've got to get up to this 5th fret to make that next chord next. And I've only really noticed it when I've watched myself back playing it, that whilst I'm playing that bit, my little pinky finger is edging its way up there to get ready for playing the next part. So it's like it's trying to get itself into the right place to make it easier for me. Now, part of that is my experience and knowing how to approach these things, but I wanted to point it out because it's a really good method, a good technique to get used to, because I've got that really easy G shape, so I can be thinking about what I'm going to do next with that slightly awkward chord. Another quick thing on that awkward chord is, if we're playing chords as a strum, you know, I really want to get all my fingers down before I strum it, so it's a bit of a one action thing, putting my chords down. Because I'm picking the notes out, I don't necessarily have to get all my fingers down at the same time, as long as they are down in time to play the notes. So for that third section, for that chord that goes like that, if I'm not confident getting that stretch and all my fingers down in one, I'm going to concentrate on the first note I'm going to play, which is why my little finger was going up for that, because I'm going to have to get that note first, and then I can put my third finger down, and then my first finger, and make it up that way. So in a perfect world, which we don't live in, you'd get them all down perfectly every chord at once, but when we're picking out the notes one by one, we can put our fingers on one by one. It makes the job a little bit easier for us. Good news, that's the most difficult section, section 3. To finish off with, we're going to play an A5 chord, an A5 power chord. So we've got our open A string, and then 2nd fret on our D string, 2nd fret on our G string. If I was just asked to play an A5 chord, a 3-note A5 chord like that is, normally I would just put a little bar on with one finger to cover those 2 fretted notes on my 2nd fret, and play it that way, similar to what I might play an E5 power chord. However, in this instance, the looking ahead technique that I've talked about before, I also need to play an open B string in this section. Now, if I play a little bar there to make my A chord, I run the risk of either fretting my B string or accidentally damping it because of trying to bar using that finger. So I've decided to use, rather than using a bar, I've decided to use individual fingers 1 and 2 to play my A5 power chord, which leaves my B string nice and open for the final notes of the piece. So just little tips that make it easier to play the riff, or certainly made it easier for me to play the riff. So just quickly through again with those things in mind. My nice little simple B5 power chord with the E string. Easy switch to my part of my G chord. See my little finger going up there to collect that note, and down to my A5. Beautiful sounding riff. It is quite simple once you get the stretch done, and as long as you plan ahead and make sure that you're not making things difficult yourself. So have a go. If you're listening to it, there is 2 guitar players playing on this. The other guitarist is doing like a legato melody thing over the top of it, so that's the other thing you'll hear. But concentrate on this this acoustic clean part of the song for this exercise. Should be good for you, and as always, enjoy.